Welcome, everyone, to the fourth installment of our what we sort of call the Basics for Beginners webinars here at LibreTexts. This is brought to you through our Academy for Professional Development. Today's webinar is a very basic introduction to our ADAPT open homework and assessment platform. And my colleague Justin Shorb, who is our Director of Curriculum Development and Innovation, is here to walk you through it.
Thank you. Before we started here, I had a link here and a QR code to a formative assessment, which means you don't need to log in order to access it. You can click on that link in the chat or use a QR code to access it either on your phone or on your computer or tablet. And we will use that kind of as a playground a little bit later, but so you can feel free to explore that while I chat. Or we will explore some of it together after I do a brief introduction. So outline, we're going to talk briefly about what the LibreTexts Academy, what these webinars are, and our goals about bringing down the cost of textbooks. And then we'll just kind of cover very briefly what is ADAPT, where do you find it on LibreTexts in general, and also how do you learn to use it, and finally wrapping up with how much does it cost. You are here, so welcome. This is our free monthly webinar series. We've been trying to go through our basic construction guide, which is kind of our manual for LibreTexts. It's accessible at the link there, or if you go to libretext.org/academy, or just go to our homepage and click on the Academy button. Under faculty resources, there's a construction guide, which basically has all of the tools you'd need to learn how to do anything on our site. And it also has a link to the free monthly webinars there. The recording and slides from this presentation will be posted there. So once this is all done, probably next week sometime, that will show up there. If you want to go back, the first one was on basics for beginners for just logging in and what all we have at LibreTexts. And then in February's webinar was on the conductor and getting started in publishing your own textbook. March was on remixing and basic editing, so compiling a custom textbook. And today we'll be talking about homework, which is our ADAPT homework system. And that is, again, academy.libretext.org will work for that website. So one thing that we like to use in explaining what our goals here at LibreTexts are, what sets us apart from a lot of the other resources you might use, is we really want to be open education without the profit. So we have a lot of focuses, but our primary four things are that we provide a resource with lots and lots of OER content. We also lead the way in many technology tools for faculty to use, and we are continuously developing those through grants, through collaborations with faculty. And then, of course, here at LibreTexts Academy, our focus is on training for faculty to use it. Our goal originally was really to stop needing to have students purchase extremely expensive textbooks. But along the way, we figured out that replacing a textbook is not just about replacing it with a quality published book, because those publishers also include ancillary materials, interactives for those courses, course management tools, homework and assessment, which includes question banks, delivery systems, security for those delivery systems, and accessibility features. So what was originally a wiki where we built a textbook for chemistry has now grown to be a massive Libreverse of a bunch of different libraries, and then also a bunch of technology services. And today we're going to focus on the homework aspect of that. There's been a lot of tools that have been developed by really great professionals throughout the decades in open source solutions for open educational assessment. Numbers, MyOpenMath, WebWork. There's one from Illinois called Prairie Learn. H5P is becoming quite popular right now. And a lot of these do stem out of the math and science areas because those can be programmatically pooled, right? You can have a question that can have any random number in it, and so it can be auto-graded. So that was a very useful thing for a lot of mathematicians to start building these really great tools. So there are a lot of really great things, and LibreTexts is not searching to figure out a way to get rid of these or to disregard a ton of work that's gone into these. So what we did from the beginning of designing ADAPT is to try to build some way to use as many of these different resources that already exist. They are open educational homework systems. The contents, many of those are with some sort of open license already. So much like our libraries, we are trying to collect all of these resources together for faculty to use and for students to have access to things in a very streamlined single point source manner. So we have technologies like the Forge, which is our up and coming Microsoft Word type of word processor and Excel spreadsheet type things, and analytics for that. That's something that we are developing. We have our own H5P studio where you can build H5P assignments or interactives, and they find a bunch of other resources there. We do operate our own iMath AS server, which is associated with MyOpenMath is similar. And we do have natively within ADAPT, we have web work editors, as well as our own native technology, which we built off of basic QTI type technology, which you can find in Canvas and some other LMSs. So all those basic structures you can find out of the box for a lot of those. In addition, we've built and designed our own sketcher for organic chemistry. So you can draw molecules. Very recently, we've been implementing Discuss It, which is a threaded audiovisual text discussion. If you clicked on that link or use that QR code, the first question you were taken to was a Discuss It thread. And that's similar to like VoiceThread or Flip, those sorts of threaded discussion boards. Very popular in language learning classes. Spanish faculty actually pioneered using that. And the reason why we did this is because we wanted to take advantage of the existing resources in the open educational forums, while also allowing for adaptable growth. So as we build this new Forge technology, for instance, that's going to merge into our ADAPT infrastructure to keep things as streamlined and user-friendly for faculty and students as possible. So an example here is once you go in to build a question in ADAPT, you'll find there's different types of homework that you can incorporate from existing databases or writing new ones. And once you choose that native option, you have all these different options of different types of native questions. And then, of course, the standard ones here. I mostly put this slide up here because if you're not familiar with QTI, you're not sure what that means. But it means you have multiple choice, true, false, numeric. All those things exist natively within like a standard QTI basic homework system. So we have all those, and then we have a lot of other ones as well. From the student standpoint, though, there's no different appearance for the students when they're doing their work. So some of these questions might be MyOpenMath, some of them might be H5P, some of them might be web work, some of them may be native. And the students don't see any difference. They're not going to different platforms in order to get different technologies. They're all interacting with it just through our simple ADAPT interface, which is clean and tries to be as user-friendly as possible. And by the way, those numbers don't have anything to do with the questions that are in your assignment, the demo. I just put those up there just for demonstrative purposes. So from here, I wanted to go and explore that assignment with you. So if you did use that QR code, there's a link in the chat if you need to go look at it. I wanted to just go through the assignment. So from the back end, the assignment's going to look, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. From the back end, there's a lot of user hints, there's a lot of properties and different things that you can utilize as an instructor. This is the view that you'd see, and you can see, I can see that there's a Discuss It question, there's an iMath AS question, there's an H5P question, there's a molecule question. This is just a piece of text so that you can have some sort of just engaging content there that you might want to have students engage somewhere else. And you can see whether they have solutions or not. So I'm going to go and click on this one and see what the instructor view will be. So here we're on the basic view, or there's the advanced view. So that's from the instructor standpoint. You would not see any of this. You'll just see the little boxes at the top, and then you'll see the interaction. So here we have nice threaded discussions. Thank you for those who already put some things in there. You'll see that there's a video. So the videos that we get here get uploaded when they do. Hello, and welcome to, I'm not going to have you listen to me on my screen while I'm also here, but that's my recording. And you can also see different transcripts here, which are editable here. And you can reprocess those. Those get turned into captions if you turn on your captions as well. And you can set this language too. So if you are wanting the captions to appear in English or Spanish or anything like that, those are all there. And you can set assignment properties for completion. So over here, it says initiate one discussion thread with a new comment, submit one reply, and participate in at least one thread. This is a catch-all. So if you wanted to have students do 4 things and you don't care how, and you want them to do 1 initiate discussion, 1 reply to somebody else, but then for the other 2 activities, they can either reply to a third person or a 4th person, or they could just start a new thread. That lets you have how many interactions you want them to do in this forum, and then specify which types you want. So you can see, because I've posted 1 thing, I have initiated a thread. I have not replied to anyone, but I have actually already completed my 1 activity that I needed to do. Normally, you would obviously put that to be higher than 2. If you have 2 things that are required, you would want that to be 2. In here, you can have different pages, so you can have different interactivities. Here you can see a description of what I just talked about and an example of how that would work. And you have new threads that you could have here. So you could have different slides in this discuss it type of question to engage your students. This works really great, like I said, for people who are maybe working remotely or online classes that you want to be able to hear their pronunciation and grade their ability to use a language or terminology fluently. So that's the discuss it type question. Number 2, this is an interactive plot. So in here, the question tells you to adjust the value of alpha or a using the slider. So you can see that this is an interactive graphing tool. So as I adjust this value, then we have this interactive graphing right in there. And then the value that is here is shown. And then you can continue on looking at, oh, that's the question statistics for me. So this is one example of an interactive problem. We have GeoGebra is installed as well. So then you can have some GeoGebra if you know how to design those, or we have some in our question bank. Then you can watch videos, look at things, and then do some mathematics involved with that. This is our H5P example of dragging and dropping. Any of the H5P things that are available to be graded inside of here as well. And we also have that example up there just to show some Arabic script and how that would work and interact. If you need to draw a structure of 1-butane, this is based on MolView. We work with the people who develop that. So if you're a chemist who's worked with them before, their interactive molecule builder and viewer is excellent. And we're excited that they're working with us. You click here, you can drag around, make your molecules. If you're not familiar, that is not butane. You can delete it. You can also add different atoms, nitrogen, oxygen, and interact with these this way, and it will grade the structure. When you design these questions, you get to build those. I wanted to, oh, this link, actually, I thought I deleted it. But this is an example of something that's up and coming. As I said, we're always working on new technologies and building new technology into ADAPT. So this is what we are, the technology we're going to be using for dissection purposes, where you can have a 3-dimensional rotatable thing to look at dissections. This is something we're working on with faculty. And I haven't mentioned the Forge, but we do have more technology coming for working with spreadsheets as well. This is an example of a chemistry style discussion question that was actually used by our founder Delmar in his course at UC Davis to get students to interact with each other about discussing how a chemistry questions work. So this is just another example there. And number 8, this one is a question in basic mathematics. I try to give one math question that everybody should be able to do, rounding 81,096 to the nearest 1,000. But if you don't, there's a video, so you can provide links within inside of here for students to work with. And this is actually just an imported IMath AS. So in other words, I went to our IMath AS library that I mentioned that we have earlier and imported this in as an existing question. So I didn't have to write that. And this is just another H5P question. Again, I tried to find something that was computer science-y that anyone should be able to do. This is a heat map grading one where you actually have to click on the right place for where the question would be. And I'm not going to record the correct answer, so no student's going to be able to go up here and find it. But that's just another example of technology that can be used within ADAPT. So what do we have in terms of questions, like I said, that are out of the box, that are already in these libraries that we've harvested throughout the time? We have over 260,000 questions in our ADAPT database that already exist for faculty to peruse. We treat it as an OER library. So if you are an instructor who has a verified instructor account with LibreTexts, you have access to ADAPT to go and look at these questions. It is a library. So if you're working on building quizzes in your classes in any way, shape, or form, it's a library for you to use just to look at for content. Obviously, students don't get to have access to the back end of ADAPT and go look at homework questions. We restrict that access, but that way students, faculty can use it as a library. We have over 25,500 H5P questions in our H5P Studio library. Those aren't all, I shouldn't necessarily use the word questions. Some of those are just interactives. We have 54,000 web work questions, which are more for the math, and they have lots of different technology in there. 70,000 iMath AS questions, again, mostly math, physics, chemistry, ones that uses numerical values. We have 70,000 open-ended questions. Those are ones where students would write things and you'd by hand go and grade them later. And in our native question, I just put those up there. We do have one specific type I haven't talked about specifically, but we do have a nursing button there where we have already a 17,000 questions that are related to NCLEX preparation. And we're still working with nursing faculty on building that assessment because it is very much desired to that community. I mentioned and showed you the sketcher molecule we have for molecular structures. We already have 400 questions in our database there. If you're familiar with using a molecule structure viewer, that technology is very easy to write your own questions in. So that is growing very fast. In fact, with the Academy services, we offer cohort training and mentoring programs, and a group of faculty in California are actually working with me right now to go through in the next year to build more organic chemistry questions, specifically often using this sketcher. So that number is going to be shooting up quite a bit in the next 10 months. And then I spent a little more time showing the discuss it thread. I really like this because it gives a lot of opportunities for people to move away from very expensive commercial tools that exist, and it opens the doors for not using your class time to do some of these presentations and communications that would normally take up a lot of class time, but still allow there to be more video, visual, but also audio and text communications. So when you are a professor in ADAPT, you will go in, you'll have this set of your courses. You can import a course that already exists. So if, for instance, you're using one of our very popular textbooks that are on there, there's a good chance that there is an ADAPT homework set that already exists for that book, and you can import that text in. And in fact, you can see right there, I have the Organic Chemistry OpenStax native import. So I imported all those as a native from the library of template files. And there's an example of me importing into Spanish from our Tarea Libre project, which is a very widely used, Spanish is actually the most used course on our ADAPT homework system right now. But we're hoping that we're gonna all increase at the same rate that Spanish has been growing. When you're in there, I'm just kind of going to go over and say, if you're a faculty member who has wanted to do something with your homework system before, the chances are we have implemented in ADAPT. I don't have time to go through all the different aspects of it, but we do have default auto releases. So if you schedule your dates and you want your assignments to be open to be viewed a week before the open date, but then students can start on that open date and then they're all due by this date, those are things you can do. We have QR codes that automatically get developed. So you saw that QR code on the first page. I didn't make that or write it. That is natively in ADAPT. You can get a QR code just by going to your assignment properties, and you can stick that wherever you need to into your class materials, onto any emails or ways that you're communicating with your students. And then we do have things like, hey, I need to look at my assignments and I need to shift all the dates because something happened, we're behind schedule, and we need to shift these all back by a week. So we have that kind of functionality as well. We have a lot of information and tooltips you saw when I was looking at this assignment. We have case study notes, properties for the courses, how you get to that for an assignment. We have grading tools. So for instance, you can set how often you want graders to be reminded to finish their grading. And we also have the ability to whitelist domains. So a lot of us do use LTI. So that means you want the grade book to get synced back to your Canvas or Blackboard or however you want your grade book to be. We have that allowed, and then students can only access through their campus LMS into ADAPT. Or if you are at an institution that doesn't have one, or you prefer to not use that for your course, then you can just have a whitelisted domain where students from this domain can register. We have options to embed materials. So you can embed your questions. If they're formative questions that aren't graded, you can embed them right into your textbook. So students can have some of your questions in a formative manner as they're reading the textbook and they're moving through things. We do care a lot about accessibility. So accessibility is very easy to develop right into all of our questions by default. And you can set which students will receive those accessibility alternate questions. So for instance, although H5P is growing in popularity quite a bit, we don't personally really like to use H5P much because, one, if you know how to look at the source code of a web page, you can find the answer to an H5P question. It's not secure. There's not a back end to it. It's all done on the student side. And also it's not accessible. Most H5P questions are not accessible to students. So in this case, if you did have an H5P question, you would have to ask over here as an example, where you would find some alternative question that you might write that would be given instead of an H5P question. We make it very simple. All of the questions in ADAPT have an ADAPT ID, and they all have, I'm actually going to show you this. When you are looking through all of our question banks and you're searching for maybe auto-graded questions, I would like a native basic QTI question that's multiple choice. And I'm going to update my results. Here's all the questions. You can click on and view them. And then over here is the ADAPT ID, which you can just use that little click button to copy those, or you can check a bunch of them that you happen to like and copy those IDs right there. And if you wanted to put that into your assignment, add questions, you can add questions from our question bank just by putting them, copy and pasting those ADAPT IDs right into there. So we made it very easy to use these unique identifiers within our database to build new assignments by either copying them from other assignments, using template courses, or by using our question bank and then selecting ones that you want to copy and paste over there and then import those into there. You can also clone any question into your own cloned version. And then if you want to modify that to be a different type of question or change the wording or the example or something along those lines, you can create clones of those questions as well. Since we do care an awful lot about the way open educational resources should be attributed to original authors and maintain that authorship, we do maintain where that question came from, so you can go back and figure out where the original sources were, who the original authors were. And these are all licensed as well. So you can see how that original author licensed those questions. Another tool that we do have as well is making along the lines of sharing and cloning questions. We do have alpha and beta courses. So you can make one alpha course that controls all the questions. Maybe the coordinator for a bunch of classes will maintain that one. And then you'll have multiple instances of a course that has the same information, and questions can propagate down, changes can propagate down, but they can have different due dates for different groups of students with different faculty that might be working for that same course coordinator. We do have the ability to embed, like I said. So here's an example of a course that has a little login button. So a student can be reading in an online textbook in LibreTexts, click on login, and then their homework will actually show up right there inside of that course. It is based on what the instructor wants to be, whether it's formative or graded. We suggest you use formative questions in your textbook, so you don't have to go through and try to modify and change them with which courses are due dates and which ones are embedded from which course, especially if you do that alpha beta course, which ones are going to be embedded there. You it's more complicated if things are graded. But you can also choose what assignment information is shown when it does get embedded. So questions at the very end, and then we'll that I think a lot of you are interested about. This is very comprehensive, right? It's a lot of tools. So what does this cost? What does it cost the institution? What does it cost for an instructor access to the question bank, or the course building costs, or question authoring costs? What does it cost for your students on per course or per semester, or what about annual costs? And let's talk about a little bit about what the costs are to LibreTexts. So the answer to this is it's free for you to log in to look at anything. Your institution pays nothing. Your instructors pay nothing to look at the questions. You want to build a course in ADAPT, it costs you nothing. Nothing about any of our instructor tools costs anything. On a per course cost, students do not pay for a per course, but they do per semester. So what this means is if your institution decides to adopt ADAPT as their homework system and they use it in a chemistry class, a chemistry lab class, a biology course, and also an English class, what that means is the student will still only pay $15 per term. So no matter how many classes they're in, they'll still pay that $15. And we cap that at $30 a year. So that means if you have a summer class as well, or if you're on trimesters, something like that, we cap that student cost at $30. And that kind of leads into a little bit of what costs LibreTexts the most. And I will give a quick caveat that because this was developed by with funds from the state of California, if you are in the state of California, then ADAPT is free because the state of California funded a lot of the development of this. So the reason why this works this way is because the thing that costs us the most to deal with this is student data for security purposes. So on a student by student basis, that's what costs us in terms of maintaining our facilities. The cost for a question bank, a cost for building a bunch of courses really does not scale much with the number of students, but maintaining that FERPA secure data on a student by student basis does cost us a quite scalable amount. So that's why the only costs that we pass on are the ones that that really just keep this afloat in terms of the scalability of our servers and our infrastructure. So to cap that, I want to remind everybody, if you do happen to live and work in the state of California, then that cost is waived for institutions in California. If you wish it was also true of your state, then go ahead and reach out to us, and we're happy to work with other states to continue building and funding our ADAPT homework system, and we can partner with other institutions and path like that way. So that wraps up our basic introduction to ADAPT. I wanted to throw one more call in for if this sounds big, overwhelming, but you're excited about using it. We do have services through our LibreTexts Academy that I run. In addition to these free monthly webinars, we also have a 3 to 4 day long LibreFest in the summer with hands-on workshops where you can virtually work with us to work on ADAPT. We always have a bunch of ADAPT sessions at LibreFest. In the fall, we have a 1-day crash course on these. In October. We do offer some other paid things as well. So we offer in-person and virtual workshops through our academy. I mentioned earlier, we have cohorts that work together. So we currently have one cohort that's working on organic questions, one cohort that's working on physics questions, and we're always looking to help faculty with training materials as we can. We also offer long-term mentoring programs, and we're building asynchronous training modules right now, which should launch this summer. And like I mentioned, collaborations for grant writing, things like that. If we work with you to build extra technology and tools, for instance, the Discuss It questions were all built with a grant that supported a lot of the development work in California by a Spanish faculty. As I mentioned, this is our 4th webinar is April. We covered those other ones. Those are all available on our LibreTexts YouTube site. You'll notice the very top of our YouTube is monthly webinar series Back to the Basics, which is right there. That's where the recording for this will be posted. And our next webinar in May will be on the 3rd Friday of May, and it will be on teaching and companion resources, LibreTexts Commons as a repository for ancillary materials. As we mentioned at the beginning of this talk, it's more than just a textbook, right? To replace a textbook in your course means you need homework, and then you also need slides and worksheets and other teaching materials. And we'll talk about how LibreTexts can be used as a repository for those and sharing those with other instructors as well. If you have not heard of our LibreNet, that is our consortium of member institutions that gives you access to more resources and more training. If you are interested in that, I do recommend that you go ahead and take a look at that. That's an institution level partnership. And I already see names on here of people who are at LibreNet institutions. So that's great. At this point, I'd like to thank you for listening. Hopefully you all have some questions, and we will take those at this time.